Stop with the questions. Celebrate.
And then they say, is Donald Trump an intellectual? Trust me, I'm like a smart person.
The Yosemite's one of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water.
Mike Lindell's a conspiracy.
But you haven't.
Person, woman, man, camera, TV. They said nobody gets it in order. It's actually not that easy, but for me it was easy.
Amazing. He can't sit down. He's got a burning in his butthole. He's got a fire. He's got a flame coming out of his butthole.
Big, massive dumps.
I have a term for that. I call it corporate communism.
Somebody sent me a thing this morning where they're talking about putting the vaccine into salad dressing.
You see, this is a simple meme that you would find on the internet, but this meme is very real.
You ain't seen nothing yet until you see the flaming butthole.
Putting us on our knees to China.
Now witness the firepower of this fully armed and operational battle station.
Beta! Beta male! Amazing.
Big, massive dumps.
On the nation, Waldorf Nation. Hey, everybody, welcome to the show. Got a good one for you today. It's Monday. We're back. It's actually Thanksgiving week, so that should be fun. All right, so we're gonna have a fun show today, as always. We have, well, we're gonna talk about inflation. No, and I'm not talking about my ego or my head, which is very, very shiny today. No, we've got a good discussion about how the media is once again trying to do inflation fear-mongering in order to stop social spending. Of course, that is always a big issue. How they're trying to stop, the Democrats, progressives, I should say, progressive Democrats from actually doing something to help regular human people. Not multinational corporations, but regular human people that actually live and breathe. Yes, they're trying to stop us. Well, they're trying to stop anybody from doing anything to help them and not corporations. But we're going to talk about that. That's fun, including $90 wine. We got gas prices, Donald Trump versus facts, as usual. We have Ahmaud Arbery, yes, an update on that trial. We've got some pretty devastating to the defense. Yeah, closing statements, lots of fun. I love that story. Marjorie Taylor Greene, of course, is crazy. She's still crazy. And speaking of crazy, a little bit of update on what's going on in Texas as far as QAnon. QAnoners still there. Texas. Be a lot of fun. $90 wine. Who has that kind of money? Asked Nicole Purple. Yeah, well, that was my question too. We'll talk about that. Hey, Raiders, welcome. So thank you for the raid, TYT. Really, really appreciate it. Everybody go follow TYT back if you haven't already, although most of you are from TYT. So thank you so much. People coming in here from Indisputable with Dr. Rashad Ritchie. Really, really appreciate the raid. We're just getting started here, so we're going to have a lot of fun. There's a pizza. Where's the pizza? Seriously. I want some pizza. All right, anyway. Hello, Jeff and Twitch Nation. Just got the flu shot this morning. Hey, That's awesome, Toolman Tim 51. That is great. I'm actually looking into getting my COVID-19 booster. Maybe I can go and finally boost up those magneto powers. Really looking forward. Gotta get it. Dango Bango, first, who is a member of the channel, that's one way, of course, you can help it on YouTube, if you're on YouTube, says, replace Garland now because Garland's a disaster. If you haven't seen the RGR versus Bosch debate, it's freaking ugly. No, I don't generally watch those, but a lot of non-binary phobia and accusations. Oh boy, ugh, sounds like a dumpster fire. Not interested in gigantic dumpster fires. So, yeah, disaster. But thanks for bringing that to my attention. Thank you, Jonathan Gordon, for the, what is that, super sticker? That's awesome. Madi Darno, thank you. Shout out to Human People. And Dango Bangle again saying, Republicans are a modern Nazi party. I don't disagree. All right. We should get started here. Thank you for the new follows, by the way. All right, let's start out. Talk about the $90 wine. The corporate media has been hammering on stories of rampant runaway inflation in order to, in my opinion, turn popular sentiment against government spending for social programs that actually benefit normal human people. So one example of that was CNN. So now CNN was put on blast a couple of weeks ago for for a story that they ran. Breonna Kylar presented a family, the Stotlers, that was going through 12 gallons of milk a week. Now, a lot of people looked at that and was like, whoa, really? 12 gallons of milk? That's crazy. And of course, they're like, well, milk used to be $1.99 a gallon. Now it's $2.79, and we go through 12 gallons a week. You know how much that is? It's about $134 a month. That's a lot of milk, and that's pretty expensive. And obviously, yes, $2.79 is more expensive than $1.99. And so, yes, there is inflation, and it does suck. Now, the reason CNN got dunked on as a result of that, it's not because the Stotlers didn't actually face a real issue related to inflation. Yeah, of course they did, and that sucks. But it's because the Stotler family was anything but the typical family, not exactly the average people here, okay? They actually have about 10 children. That's not the average family size in America. The average family actually is about 2 to 3 kids, and the median income is about $68,000 a year. And by the way, half of all American workers actually make less than $35,000 a year. That's according to 2019 numbers. And so, not exactly average when you're talking about, 12 gallons of milk, 10 kids. Most people can't afford 1 kid or 2, much less 2, especially in this country where we don't have childcare, where we don't have paid leave, maternity leave, etc. Get back in the mines and get back to work. Oh, you push a baby out? Get back to the office. Get back in the line. So now, as I said, the Stotlers do not represent the average American family, but because, the inflation hits them especially hard as a result of the size of their family. And so because of that, the whole segment kind of came off as like a fear-mongering using a bit of an extreme example, an absurd example. And the reason, of course, that it pissed off a lot of people is because it was pushing a narrative. That narrative is inflation, scary, let's not do any social spending, let's listen to people like Joe Manchin. Now, MarketWatch did the same thing just recently. In a tweet about inflation, they said that the average Americans, that average people, are actually routinely paying, as a result of inflation, $90 for a bottle of wine. In an article earlier this month, MarketWatch reported that inflation is the highest it's been in the United States in almost 31 years. Of course, that's a fact, and I'm not, discounting that at all. And it cited elevating price tags on everything from concert tickets to wine to gasoline. Do they know how normal people live, what they actually spend money on? I mean, gasoline, of course, that's a given. But $90 wine. Now, the tweet sharing the article claimed that average Americans are paying as much as $100 to $200 for a single concert ticket, $90 for a bottle of wine, and $5 a gallon for gas. Okay, that's factually incorrect. The average price for a gallon of gas across the country is $3.41. Now, is it more expensive in places, the bigger cities like California, for example, on the West Coast? Absolutely. But everywhere else, again, it averaged, somewhere around over $3, $3.30, $3.41, $3.50, and in some places it's higher, some places lower. Okay, that sucks. And by the way, if we only had some sort of public transportation system that would take cars off the road and lessen our dependence on fossil fuels, foreign sources of oil controlled by cartels like OPEC Plus, for example, and paid for, eliminating, and actually eliminated the $20 billion a year in subsidies we give to oil and gas companies while we work on switching to all renewable energy sources. If only we had something. If only we had something. Oh well, I guess we don't. I guess we just can't do that. That costs too much money. But seriously though, the reason that we're paying more in gas prices, and again, it is higher in California, almost $4.50 in certain places. OPEC plus the cartel, literal cartel, raised the prices of oil and by, of course, reducing production, reducing the supply at a time of increased demand. And they did so in order to make up lost profit during the pandemic. As a result, we pay more at the pump. That hurts regular working people most of all. And so that's the issue. Now, if you're talking about concert tickets, that's something a little bit different. For me personally, again, we're in the pandemic, okay? We're still in the pandemic. Why are we doing concerts? Maybe it's just me and the fact that I'm generally not a people person. Big surprise, right? I don't like being around big crowds of people. And so the idea of standing shoulder to shoulder in a crowd in the middle of loud music, that sounds even worse now than it did before. So, and look, I'm vaccinated, sure. That doesn't mean I'm 100% immune from COVID or 100% immune from giving it to someone else, even if I'm asymptomatic. Nonetheless, that is a concern, right? If you want to go to a concert, though, it's kind of hard to still find a cheap ticket. And average people, to be fair, I think some average people do like to hit up a concert every once in a while, and that's fine. But the idea that there's anything average about spending $90 on a bottle of wine, no way. That's too far. Who pays $90 for a bottle of wine? What average American will do that? None that I know. None that I know. And why would you? Why would an average person do that? Again, if you want to go for an inexpensive option, there's nothing stopping you from double fisting Boone's Farm, a couple of bottles for less than $10. Or get yourself a, $25 box of wine, and you can get all the Karens on your block drunk. Have a big old block party with that. $90 though, $90. And by the way, if you're looking on the cheap, why not get, spend $16 for a case of natural ice? That's not a 12-pack. That's a 30-pack for $16. There are so many ways to drink. So many cheaper ways. And it doesn't, it can be wine as well. Nobody is paying $90 for wine. Unless you are, again, let me just go back and rephrase it. No regular people are paying $90 for wine. That's ridiculous. Just ridiculous. Again, natty ice, if you want to get drunk, that's the way to go. Because if you can get past the horrible taste and the feeling of self-loathing after drinking that, you can have a good time on the cheap, like a regular person. But understand that, like, the backlash on this Market Watch tweet was swift. They actually deleted the original tweet, as a lot of people accused them of inflation fear-mongering, which again would be absolutely correct. In fact, one person tweeted, Market Watch is panicking folks about saying average Americans are paying as much as $90 for a bottle of wine and $5 a gallon for gas. Another person says, stop fear-mongering. The average cost of gas before COVID was pretty close to what it is now. You can get a bottle of wine for under $4 at Aldi. Gas was cheap during COVID because no one was going anywhere. Another person says, feeling very average American tonight. About to purchase my daily $90 bottle of wine and down my 12 gallons of milk. Please don't do that. You will die. All right. Another person says, it's just an average bottle of wine, Michael. How much could it cost? $90? Another person adds, Market Watch thinks average Americans paying $90 for a bottle of wine. They also think that the price of beluga caviar may be getting slightly out of reach for the working class. Huge disconnect. Love it. But these are fun. But there's something a little bit more going on here. This is a tactic that conservatives are using to stop social spending. And you see, it doesn't matter what party they're in. Conservatives going to conservative. For example, Joe Manchin. He's been talking about inflation the whole time. Oh, I can't support Build Back Better because we got inflation. I can't support something that would literally cap the cost of insulin to $35 a month. Oh, can't do that. No. Can't do something that's, allows older people, senior citizens, to be able to get hearing aids, hearing care at a lower cost. And again, there's a whole bunch of great stuff in Build Back Better before Joe Manchin took a razor to it. Not just a razor, sorry, razors for fine cuts. No, he took a hatchet, an absolute literal hatchet job on it, and still is saying, I just, inflation, what are you going to do? We can't do more social spending. No, not at all. And that's the situation. So let me add one more tweet here. One person says average Americans are not paying $100 concert tickets or $90 bottles of wine. They face soaring prescription drug prices, unaffordable child care, and lack of paid leave. And the reason they're paying $5 a gallon of gas is big oil and gas are jacking up the prices. You know that you and I, as taxpayers, we ended up footing the bill for trillions of dollars in handouts to big corporations. Like the yummy in their tummy bipartisan infrastructure bill. You know what that was filled with? Public-private partnerships, government contracts, privatization of public assets, along with many, many subsidies. Now the Democrats passed that and progressives lost whatever little leverage they might have had. People like Joe Manchin, Kyrsten Sinema, Nancy Pelosi, and other corporate Democrats have actually no reason to support a robust version of Build Back Better. If it'll pass at all, well, you could say, but it just passed the House last week. Yeah, there was a version that passed the House, but they don't mention that the Senate is where you're going to find the real problem. You have Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema to get passed. And Joe Manchin did not promise to vote for this. And so what's going to happen? Well, probably nothing. Again, this isn't even one of his priorities anymore. His priority is defense spending, the NDAA, passing that. So he's not gonna be at all interested in doing anything with Build Back Better, which is going to be disastrous for the midterms. So great. Now, the reason that I don't mention Republicans, by the way, on this is because Republicans would have never supported Build Back Better in the first place. They love what Manchin and Sinema have done to block social spending. And, that social spending, guys, it would have helped you. And they're using right-wing narratives. The Democrats are. That's all this is. I'm glad to see that people are not buying it, regular people, because the provisions in this bill are, as spelled out, individually poll incredibly well. So the American people aren't buying it. Unfortunately, it's electorally the Democrats who will pay the price for this failure. And of course, to them, it's not a failure. It's exactly what the plan was. But the American people will again lose out because of corporate rule. The Democrats in Washington are so out of touch. Yes, they are. Absolutely. All right. Former President Donald Trump is being mocked for claiming gas prices in California are more than $7 a gallon. I want to show you what he said during an interview with Mark Levin.
When I left, gasoline was $1.87. That was a year ago. And now it's, I guess, just hit $7.50 in California, the rest to follow. And I predicted this. I said all of these things were going to happen.
Oh, I predicted this. All the things were going to happen. It was going to hit $7.50. Well, there's just one problem with that. It didn't. None of that is true. Literally, none of that. No, the average cost of gas per gallon in the United States is about $3.41. Now, again, that sucks. It is higher than it was, yes. Is it $7.50? No. In California, the average per cost a gallon is about $4.53. Again, that's still not great. But where did you get $7.50? Where did you get $7.50? Now, it turns out conservative media, you're not going to be surprised. Conservative media went out cherry picking. Here's what they found. They found Gorda, California. Now, have you ever heard of Gorda, California? If you haven't, I wouldn't be surprised. It is an incredibly tiny, isolated town in the middle of nowhere in Monterey County. Turns out they were charging $7.59 a gallon for gas. Wow. Now, there was another photo that was circulated, but it was fake. And it purported to show nearly $8 a gallon in East Lancaster. Again, the gas station was actually not in operation, and so it didn't actually have gas, it wasn't selling gas. So, fake, right? Fake. But the cost in Gorda was confirmed to be true, but there's some missing context. Again, when I talk about cherry picking, right? So now it turns out that Gorda, California is so small that it literally has only one gas station. They have a sign noting that the next nearest station is about 40 miles away to the north and 12 miles to the south. So they're basically saying, hey, if you need gas, I mean, we're pretty much the only game in town. We got a monopoly here. And what are we going to do? Well, when we have a monopoly, we're going to charge a lot higher prices. Great. Great. So with no competition, the owners get to charge whatever the hell they want, and then they do. Up from the road where I live, there is also premium gas at $7 a gallon in Hollywood. Gas prices in California are all over the place, depending on how far away they are from distribution points. That is, again, a great point. So you can't, though, then go, as Trump is doing and the right wing is doing, taking those individual individual situations, right, and say that all over California, gas is $7.50 a gallon. Again, it does change. And as a viewer pointed out, it really matters in location and distribution. So there is a lot of context here. But again, the right doesn't care about context. So they get outraged about this. And again, honestly, we should all be kind of outraged about this, that this gas station is literally gouging people, engaging in price gouging. But here's the thing. They don't blame the companies. They don't blame the stations. They don't blame the supply. Well, they trying to do, but they blame Joe Biden for everything. And that's it too. They just look at this and say, God damn it, Joe Biden. This wouldn't have happened in Trump's America. But wait, it did. So, but here's the thing, right? The president does not set gas prices. Never has, never will. You can't blame a president for high gas prices, just like you can't blame a president, praise a president for low gas prices. This is like George W. Bush said, I wish I had won. Low gas, low gas. No, you can't do that. You don't have that. And even he was saying, I don't have it. I can't do that. I can't do the wand. Now, here's the thing. If you actually want to go down that route and you're an idiot Trump supporter, all right, well, back in April 2019, gas in Gorda hit $11.75 a gallon. Who was president then? Oh, right. It was your boy, Donald Trump. So, it's ridiculous to blame solely the president for gas prices when, of course, we're talking about a global market with a lot of externalities. Externalities we could either streamline or eliminate if we were to actually, stop depending on foreign oil. And by the way, there was another thing that he said, not just about the super high, but also about the super low. So he claimed, it was like $1.87 when I was president. Well, neither the national nor California state average went as low as $1.87 a year ago. It just didn't happen. Now, it was 210 and 302 respectively. Okay, all right, so they were lower, but guess what? You can't really take a lot of credit for that because it was the middle of a worldwide pandemic where nobody was wanting to go anywhere because everybody was either getting sick or dying because there wasn't a vaccine. So sorry, you don't get a lot of credit there either because you let that pandemic get out of control. So, and again, one of the main reasons you're paying more for gas is because not only is demand up because people are getting out of the house, vaccinated people are not only getting out of the house a little bit more, but also, of course, companies are making people go back to work into the office. And, of course, you have OPEC Plus, a literal oil cartel full of rich countries that have decided to artificially limit the supply in order to drive up prices so they can make an additional profit. And here's the thing. It all really comes down to one fact. We're dependent on oil, and we shouldn't be. There's no need to be, especially now that, without a doubt, we know it's destructive on the environment to pump it, refine it, and burn it. We know climate change. We know what it already has in store for us. We know the destruction that is baked into the next 20 to 50 years. This is carbon, the effect of the carbon dioxide that we've already put into the atmosphere that is coming home to roost. And we're continuing to put more and more. And so there is a time lag before we feel the effects of the carbon that we put into the atmosphere today. And so and look, we still have, even though we've got a pretty bleak future, there's still time to avoid an even bleaker future. Because guess what? We do have the technology and we do have the ideas in order to not only reduce our consumption of oil on a national level or worldwide level. This technology allows us to at least reduce our emissions, basically zero emissions or carbon neutral, or do something. We should do something. I mean, reducing our usage massively and our dependence on oil would really fix a lot of the problems involved, not only in of course, gasoline shortages or price, but also, as I said, climate change and the damage that we're about to go through, and as a result, and are currently going through as a result of climate change. The problem here is political. Okay, oil and gas owners do not want green energy. They don't want green energy infrastructure. They don't want more public transportation. They don't want more energy efficient vehicles, gas efficient. They want you to drive the gas guzzlers around. You know why? It's because, well, you pay more for gas. You buy more gas. More profit, more profit. And they want that profit at the expense of our civilization. It's basically, it's nihilism based on greed. Trump, Joe Manchin, the corporate Democrats, corporate-owned politicians from both parties, all they are, at this point, are lapdogs that are doing the bidding of these giant fossil fuel companies. Yeah. Coal, methane, think unsealed abandoned oil wells, not cows, diesel, natural gas should have been dealt with 40 years ago. Scientists knew, but it was the same problem back then than it is now. Corporations, money in politics. All right. Let's see. Oh, somebody says, talking about not my president. Yeah, I thought that was kind of dumb, honestly. Greed, it's always greed. Always bet on greed. Indeed. All right. Let's move on to something a little bit different. Go to the McMichael trial. Closing arguments in the McMichael trial are currently happening today. Gregory McMichael and his son Travis, as well as William Roddy Bryan, are three men on trial for the murder of a black jogger, Ahmaud Arbery, in Georgia. Now, the senior prosecutor for the Cobb County District Attorney's Office, Linda Dunikowski, delivered a closing argument for the prosecution earlier on Monday. And what she's going to do is she's using a very, very simple test called the but-for test. And I want to show you an example of that in action.
But the bottom line is, but for their actions, but for their decisions, but for their choices, Ahmaud Arbery would be alive. And that's why they've been indicted with murder, felony murder, and the 4 felonies that led to the murder.
Pretty simple. But for their actions, Ahmaud Arbery would be alive today. Boom. And that's basically it. Now remember, this case did not get as much attention, and I believe it should have gotten a lot of attention as the Rittenhouse trial. Now, because remember, the McMichaels are the ones that are using the self-defense argument, as well as saying, well, we had the right to do a citizen's arrest, even though we didn't actually see a crime happen. Now, they chased him down nonetheless. William Roddy Bryan, of course, when he had seen the McMichaels go by, decided to hop in his truck, grab his camera, and film it, and then chase after this guy, Ahmaud Arbery, who was running from these crazy white boys. And that's what it was. Now, when, Bryan ran him off the road, and this was explained when one of them was on the stand giving cross-examination, that they had cornered Arbery like a rat. And I think gave him no choice but to defend himself. Now the difference is, of course, is that Ahmaud Arbery was unarmed. He didn't have a gun. He didn't have a gun. And yet there were 2 men who had guns and 2 trucks. What this was a modern day lynching. That's what happened. Ahmaud Arbery did absolutely nothing wrong. But in their mind, the mind of the McMichaels and Bryan, well, he's black. We've been having some crime lately. There's been some theft. And so he's running down the street. He must have done something wrong. We need to go and we need to, quote unquote, question him, even though I really don't have the authority to do so since I didn't see him doing a crime. Now, Georgia has had this law where you can do a citizen's arrest if you witnessed a crime or if you have a good reason or a good suspicion to believe that this person had been involved in a crime. But all they saw was Ahmaud Arbery running, jogging. That's it. Jogging down the road. Oh man, he's running. We got a black guy running. Oh, get your guns. Get your guns. In fact, I want to go to the next video here. This is a little bit more context into the argument Dunikowski was doing, and basically she broke down what happened.
But bottom line, they assumed he must have committed some crime that day because he's running real fast down the street, right? They did not call 911. They wanted to stop him and question him before they called 911. How do we know? Because that's what they told the police that night. That's what they said on the scene. Hey, stop, we want to talk to you. Can't do that. They made these decisions in their driveways. So what's really going on here? You know what's really going on here. Mr. Arbery was under attack. They committed 4 felonies against him. And those are the 4 felonies in the indictment. Then they shot and killed him, not because he was a threat to them, but because he wouldn't stop and talk to them. And they were going to make him, absolutely make him stop. We're going to point a shotgun at you. That'll make you stop. That should make you stop right here in your tracks because we want to talk to you. And what did he do? He still ran away. Still ran away. For 5 minutes, ran away. Travis McMichael went to intercept him with that shotgun, and he turned that corner. We can't see whether Mr. Arbery attacked him or grabbed the shotgun or anything. It doesn't matter. Because how fast did he shoot him? How fast did he just pull that trigger? They shot and killed Ahmaud Arbery. They all acted as a party to the crime. You'll note they've been indicted that way.
All right, so look, I mean, that pretty much breaks it down. Can't get any more clear, in my opinion. They assumed, based on race, that he was up to no good. They formed a posse, they chased him down, they confronted him, and then they shot him when he tried to defend himself. That was it. You don't get to chase people down and claim, with guns and claim self-defense. Oh no, I chased this person down the road in my truck and then pointed a shotgun at his face, and I'm the victim here. No, you don't get to do that, okay? You don't get to start a fight with somebody and claim that you were acting in self-defense, okay? You don't get to play vigilante lawman, because in this case, and in a lot of cases like this, people die. Will die. And so, look, Dunikowski has done an amazing job as prosecutor. The defense has been absolutely, in my opinion, very, very weak. Very weak. You even had, during cross-examination, Travis McMichael admitting Ahmaud Arbery was no threat to me. He wasn't acting aggressive. He didn't have any indication that he had a weapon. And so he was absolutely no threat to me, and I shot him anyway. And by the way, it's not just, and here's the thing, the biggest, most egregious part of this entire thing isn't just the caucasity of being able to go out and form a white posse and hunt down a black man, thinking that you could just detain him for running. No, it's actually what led up before the arrest. Right after this happened. Remember, it took more than 2 months for these men to be arrested for this modern-day lynching. And why is that? It's because Gregory McMichael used to be a police officer. You know that Dunikowski is actually the 4th prosecutor in this case. The 4th. What happened to the other ones? Well, 2 local district DAs had to recuse themselves because of professional connections to Mr. McMichael. Given that, of course, that police officers and prosecutors tend to work very close to each other or with each other in many, many cases. And so, of course, if you have these local prosecutors and local police officers, that's why you always have to bring someone in from the outside, because of those connections. They will get in the way of judgment and impartiality. And then, of course, you had a third, Brunswick District Attorney Jackie Johnson, whose office initially handled this case. She was charged in September with violating her oath of office and obstructing the arrest of the McMichaels immediately after the shooting. These prosecutors literally refused to do their jobs because they were too close to the cops. And that, again, happens. It happens a lot, all the time, in fact. But this time, and the only reason, and this is why it's so important that there was video evidence, okay, and that there was an outrage. Public awareness and outrage for the community, as well as from civil rights leaders, all that pressure, that's when they finally got to get charges on this guy, on these three individuals. So, look, and here's the thing too. This is, how many times has this actually happened? How many times has something like this happened in Georgia? Do we even know? Do we even know? No, I don't think we do. Before cell phones, before a national conversation on race in this country, before Black Lives Matter, how often did this happen? And the DAs just go, another black man, he must have done something wrong. Again, they had this law in the books in Georgia until this happened. And think about other states as well. And so that's why it's so important. And that's why it's really kind of a benefit, even though we are seeing all this happen now, and we're all stunned and we're all shocked. We're like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. But it's been happening all along. Now we're finally getting to see it. And hopefully the good effect that comes from that is the fact that we can start to get justice. And that's the most important thing. Now, for me, again, to me, it seems like it's pretty clear that McMichaels are guilty. But whether the jury will agree or not, that's a different question. Again, the defense is saying, well, he was dangerous. He was a scary black man. And, we just stopped to question him. And then he attacked us. And then it was self-defense. It was a matter of life or death. But I think she makes a really good case to cut through that. That the McMichaels, and had they minded their own business, and this is what the crux of the case is, had they minded their own business, or if they were really concerned, actually call the police, then Ahmaud Arbery, there's a good chance he might still be alive today. I guess not that they would care for it. Okay. Let's go to Marjorie Taylor Greene. Looks like Marjorie Taylor Greene is doing projection once again. So now, this is following the not guilty verdict of Kyle Rittenhouse. So now, look, he was found not guilty by the jury on all the charges, completely walks. And yet, Marjorie Taylor Greene nonetheless believes that that the communists in the Democrat Party will still be using the case of Kyle Rittenhouse to take your guns. I kid you not. Here's what she tweeted. It's a long tweet storm. We're going to go through and kind of detail every single one of these. So strap in for this one. She tweeted, "The radical Marxists in this country are currently building their attack to dismantle the Second Amendment. They will stay on their lying message constantly about angry white men are a threat to black lives." But, well, I mean, they are. And by the way, angry white nationalists, you realize they're a threat to everybody, right? Unless you're white nationalist. I mean, look, think about it this way. Far-right white nationalist groups have actually been killing people, not just black people, but white people, white police officers. Look at the J6 rioters. They went and attacked police officers, nearly killed one. But yeah, sure, go off, right? And by the way, the 3 guys that Kyle Rittenhouse had shot were also white. I don't think, did she know that? Does she know that? Even though you could definitely make a good case that he wanted to go down there and hunt some black people, he ended up shooting 3 white people who were supporting Black Lives Matter. So now, speaking of Rittenhouse, she said, "Their fake outrage and lies about Kyle Rittenhouse is their vehicle on the road to disarming America." All right, so let's talk about fake outrage, right? Marjorie Taylor Greene is mad about things that aren't real. I mean, there's no Jewish space lasers. There's no communists in the Democratic Party. Okay? Let's be honest. Communists hate the Democrats because they're too far to the right. They're too capitalist and too captured by corporations and corporate interests. Honestly, there are no communists in the Democratic Party. It's just not a thing. Not a thing. But she goes on. "This is all lawful gun owners and freedom-loving, God-fearing Americans. Do not, I repeat, do not fall into the trap. This is a time of great testing. You have a duty and responsibility to our future to not be baited into the awful lies and insults that are being hurled in your face." Now, I'm guessing that this is like her trying to say, hey, conservatives, don't go out there and shoot people. Well, I mean, I guess I will endorse said message because I don't want white nationalists going out there and causing violence and using their guns either. Unfortunately, that seems to happen too much. But again, as far as like this goes back to the victimhood mentality. Okay. Oh my God, the insults, the awful lies, they're being hurled in our faces every single day by the godless baby-killing communists. Do you realize that you're doing the exact thing that you were mad about? Do you not see that? Do you not see that? Do you not understand? Now, the closest thing that I can think to deciphering this nonsense is Kyle Rittenhouse. Because, again, that's who she's talking about, right? Well, a lot of people call Kyle Rittenhouse a white nationalist. So now for me, I think, okay, is Kyle Rittenhouse a white nationalist? I don't have a definitive answer on that. But for me, what do you call people who hang out with the Proud Boys? I mean, and in case you're thinking, what do you mean? Proud Boys say that they're not white nationalists. They even have a person of color as their president. What are you talking about? Their deal. I mean, their leader. Their leader. He's not even a white person. What are you talking about? Well, let me give you some details from the Southern Poverty Law Center. Rank and file Proud Boy leaders regularly spout white nationalist memes and maintain affiliations with well-known extremists. They are known for anti-Muslim and misogynistic rhetoric. Proud Boys have also appeared alongside other hate groups, extremist gatherings such as the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville. Other members of the alt-right have said things like this about Proud Boys, by the way. So this is Brian Brathovd. He was on a recent, well, not recent, sorry, but he was on an anti-Semitic podcast, so that can tell you something. Here's what he said about the Proud Boys. He said that if they were pressed on the issue, I guarantee you that 90% of them would tell you something along the lines of, Hitler was right, yes, the Jews. That's neo-Nazism. That is white nationalism. Right there. Literally one of the most heinous things that you could say. But yet they claim, no, we reject white nationalism. We're not actually racist. But what they do is they launder a friendlier version of popular white nationalist tropes in order to clean up their image. A nice, clean, friendly version of their horrible beliefs. Right. Now, did Kyle Rittenhouse know who the Proud Boys were or what they do? I don't know that for certain. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. I don't know. Maybe he just liked the people because they were defending him. I don't know for certain. But I don't think it's out of bounds to assume that you are like the company that you keep. Okay? Even though he did come out on Tucker Carlson's show, which I think is pretty hilarious, and said, what are you talking about? I'm not a racist. I support Black Lives Matter. Oh, okay. All right. Sure. That's funny on its own because you're literally going on Tucker Carlson's show, a white nationalist, and saying, what are you talking about? I support Black Lives Matter. Okay. Right. Sure. But again, I don't think it's out of bounds to assume from the interactions with certain groups, hanging out with militias, actually literally doing a call to arms from white militias, and LARPing as a cop at a Black Lives Matter protest, that maybe he could certainly hold some racist views, or at least, again, he's a young person, so certainly could have fallen down one of these right-wing rabbit holes, which does happen to young people quite a bit. And of course, it's not an excuse for anything that he's done. But that's a possibility. Okay. He's just young and stupid. Well, he's certainly stupid. I can really say that for certainty, that he's a dipshit. But anyway, Greene goes on. Here's what she says. All of us who believe know that none of us are racist and what is it? Or believe in white supremacy. We believe all are equal. Oh, you do? Oh, you do, huh? Oh, that's fascinating. Okay, if Marjorie Taylor Greene believes all people are equal, then why is she against immigration reform? I mean, if you believe everyone is equal, well then, why not bring in more immigrants? I mean, I think that's a great idea. It has been mathematically, it has been proven through data that immigrants are a huge net benefit to America. Why don't we bring in more immigrants? I think that's a great idea. Let's do it. Let's bring people in because it's a benefit to us, not just socially, but also economically. Let's bring more immigrants. Oh, but wait. No, she doesn't believe that. Because she thinks, no, immigrants bad unless they're white. Because of course. Again, what she says there is an excuse to not do anything to eliminate systemic racism in this country. What are you talking about? We're not a racist country. We don't have racist institutions. Everyone is equal. We think everyone is equal in this country. There's no racism here. And yet, these are the same people that uphold systemically racist institutions. These are the institutions that were erected during slavery and Jim Crow that have affected people of color and prevented the majority of black people from being able to amass generational wealth like their white counterparts. I mean, how many times, how long were black people not only treated as property, but also not allowed to own property or had barriers put in their way to prevent them from owning property? Things like redlining, for example, poorly funded schools, lack of opportunity for people in those communities, not hiring people because of their names, they sound too ethnic, or arresting little black girls and boys in school for maybe some outbursts, or even making rules against letting little black girls have their natural hair. School to prison pipeline, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This happens all over the country and is enabled by members of the far right. And yet goes on to claim the Democrats are opposing gun rights because they're because they're the guns. The guns are holding back a quote-unquote communist revolution that is being waged with help from the media. Ah, yes, the media. The media is helping the communists. And the communists are going to try to have a communist revolution with guns. Wait, that doesn't make any sense. Hold on. How else would you have a revolution? It doesn't make any sense. But by the way, what media is communist? MSNBC and CNN are massively corporate. They want lower taxes in themselves, less regulation. There's nothing communist about that. Come on. But finally, let's go to the coup de grace. Okay. She says, they want a race war in a country where we aren't racist. Protect yourself with the full armor of God. No. How about no? So here's the thing. The only people calling for a race war are members of the right wing. So there's this, decent sized contingent on the far right. It's like they want a race war. They can't wait. They want it. Well, most of the American people don't. The vast, vast majority of people are like, no, are you insane? No, of course not. And look, again, the reason is so they can keep certain people in their place. Now, again, as I mentioned, the vast majority of this country are not racist. Now, there are a lot of people who do unknowingly benefit from some of the racist institutions that have not been dismantled. And so, let me give you an example, right? White areas do tend to have more income, better schools. Better schools, better education, better outcomes, less crime. And of course, if you have less crime in these communities, you have a less need for policing. Okay, and so you don't have over-policing. By the way, if you do over-policing, guess what? You're going to find more crime. Which is kind of like a self-justification, kind of a vicious cycle here going on. But now you have black areas that have the complete opposite. End up having, poorer schools, less opportunity, less education, more crime, which leads to more police, more incarceration, more distrust towards those communities or the people that are represented in those communities. For example, Ahmaud Arbery was literally chased down and shot to death by 3 white men because they thought, well, he's black, he must be doing something wrong. Because he's running. Now, if you think about it, already, there is kind of a race war going on in this country that started when the first transatlantic slave ship arrived on the shores. Now, it just has changed shape throughout the years, but it's waged by the same kind of people. And these people want to keep a certain demographic of people down economically by treating them as less than human so they can take advantage of them economically. And so they can maintain control over what they consider to be their resources, money, power, and status. Can you guess which side Marjorie Taylor Greene is on? I think I can. Okay. Let's go to QAnon. Members of QAnon are still waiting for JFK Jr. to show up. Okay. So now this is roughly about a month after he was supposed to show up and declare his intentions to run for president along with Donald Trump. And yet JFK Jr. is still MIA for some reason. Oh, right, because he's dead. Still dead, by the way. He didn't get resurrected or he didn't come out of the so-called, like, oh, I faked my death or anything like that. No, he's still dead. He's still dead. As if, of course, that fact would deter the QAnon faithful who, again, are gathering in Dealey Plaza where JFK was shot and killed decades ago. Now, my question is, why would you, if you were coming back say you remember the Kennedy family that was killed. Why would you come back in a place where you were shot? Or a family member was shot? Why would you do that? I mean, for me, it doesn't seem to make sense. Like, I'm going to come back at this place where there's some pretty bad memories here. It kind of makes me think of the association with Christ and the cross. I mean, what part of Jesus Christ's story makes you think that he likes crosses? Like, at all? Honestly. It makes no sense to me, but again, neither does QAnon. It's all nonsense. And yet, of course, here they are. In fact, I'm going to show you here a little bit of this gathering. Take a look. So there's about 100 people there. All right. I think these people have lost their minds. And here's why I say that. They've made JFK Jr. into modern day Jesus. I kid you not. It feels like a cult. It looks like a cult. It sounds like a cult. It's a cult. I mean, any day our Lord and Savior shall return, as foretold in the great 4chan prophecies. And look, here's the thing. It sounds like I'm making fun of it, which, okay. But if you look at the details and how this has actually hurt regular people, well, turns out not a laughing matter. As Vice reports, the QAnon offshoot cult that has been camped out in Dallas for 3 weeks has actually been widely mocked for claiming that JFK and his son would suddenly reappear, which they have not. But as the weeks have passed, the group's rhetoric has become increasingly extreme, and many cult and extremism experts are concerned about the direction the group has taken. So now this particular group is led by Michael Brian Protzman, who is known to his followers as -48. Okay? The group, which first claimed JFK Jr. was coming back, is now talking about physical death. Here's the report. While the group initially appeared to be waiting for the reappearance of JFK, over the weekend, the tone of Protzman's comments shifted dramatically. The Protzman is now claiming that he is God's representative on Earth. Oh, great. So you're like, oh, no, I'm literally Jesus now. I am the representative of God. And, we're waiting here for JFK Jr., even though JFK Jr. hasn't showed up, but that's okay, because there is something that's going to happen now. He took part in a video chat where participants openly spoke about having to experience death, physical death, in order to learn the quote-unquote truth. Ultimately, we have to experience that physical death, let go, come out on the other side, one of the participants in the video call suggested. Okay, no, not good. Not good at all. In fact, here is Michael Rothschild, who is the author of The Storm is Upon Us, a book chronicling QAnon. He said, the moment when the leaders of a cultic group start talking about the need for physical death to reach utopia is the moment to get the authorities involved. Now, out of their safety. I don't want anybody to die. That's crazy. That's insanity. Don't kill yourself over QAnon, which is just, again, complete and utter nuttery. Now, hours later, the administrator of Protzman's Telegram channel also posted a screenshot of a navigation app showing a destination that they're to gather at Waco, Texas. Waco. Oh, this is not going to go well. No, don't do it. Don't go to Waco. Don't go to Waco. Don't do it. Now, remember, back in 1993, that's when the Branch Davidians, that's the site of a raid that killed 76 people, including 25 children. It was a whole entire mess. Holy crap. Now, as for some of the people that are in this group, they have been suckered in. According to Arkansas native Kelly Gardner, who talked to Vice, her sister is part of this group now. So her sister gets sucked into QAnon. So no, relatively, again, intelligent person, went to school, became a nurse. But then, within a few weeks, going online, ended up getting just completely sucked into QAnon, now believes that there's lizard people and you know, Democrats eating babies. I mean, it's insanity, drinking their blood. I mean, it's crazy. Just craziness. And now she is, not only has she handed over $200,000 to this cult, essentially. Now she's being forced to drink hydrogen peroxide solution and to take something called a biopellet to ward off COVID-19. Look, I'm gonna be honest with you, that's not going to work. That's just not going to work. Not only that, but her family has suffered as a result of this. In fact, according to her sister, quote, she left her children for this and doesn't even care. She is missing birthdays and holidays for this. She really believes that this is all real and that we're the crazy ones for trying to get her to come back home. But she won't. I don't believe she will ever come back from this. We are in mourning. Horrifying. Come back to reality. People have lost family to this insanity. A cult like this popping up. I mean, and again, cults have happened all throughout history. There's nothing really new about this except for the medium, which is, again, Facebook groups, online, and the ease of people that can access disinformation and get sucked down this rabbit hole, oftentimes for profit and sometimes by legitimately crazy people. It's a real issue. It is a real issue, this radicalization. You know, look, I'm going to say something controversial. I don't think it's a bad thing to be a conservative. They're conservative, that's fine. There is something terrible about being a conspiracy theorist on the far right. Okay? That's real craziness. I mean, I think you're wrong if you're like, well, yeah, you know what? I believe that we should have less regulations on corporations and lower tax rates on the rich. I don't think you're crazy. I think you're wrong. I don't think you're crazy. This, again, thinking that the world or the government, or at least the Democratic Party, is being run by Satan-worshiping pedophiles? No, you've hit a level of where I can't even talk to you because you and I do not live in the same world. We don't live in the same world. Like, you're off in La La Land. Like, I can't get through to you. And I'm not even going to try. So, again, and the problem is you go down that rabbit hole, you never come out. You almost never come out. And what's going to happen, of course, when, I mean, and you know what? No, I already know the answer to that question because we've seen it. Every time the prediction is proven wrong, they just move the goalposts and get further and further and further into madness. And I really get concerned about what's going to happen when they hit that threshold, as we should all be concerned. Okay. Yeah, sorry to be a downer on that one, but that is it's a scary story. Just insane. Okay. Anyway. Let's see, do we have ish super chats here? Let me check before we head out and figure out who we're going to raid here on. All right, here we go. Tyler Hackner with a lot of love. Appreciate that. Let's see. Gordon CAB, what Alfred, New York is toast? Ah, yes. With the incredibly high gas prices and the price gouging that goes on. Let's see. Tyler Hackner says we should invest in renewable energy. People should have been prosecutors for the Rittenhouse trial. Adds that we live in a justice system that will go only after black people, but also white people fighting on behalf of black people. That's a good point. Marjorie Taylor Greene calling everything that she doesn't like communism. Absolutely true, because she doesn't seem to understand what that word actually means. And also, look what they did when we tried to build wealth for ourselves, Tulsa, etc. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Thank you for all the new follows here on Twitch, and thank you for staying with me through most of the show. I appreciate that. So thank you. We are going to raid into, let's do a left flank vets raid. So let's start that. Get that going. Again, thank you so much for staying here and listening to the show. If you want to help us, you can become a patron. Thank you again for the super chats. Really appreciated that. Like and subscribe, as always. And there's another thing that you could do. You can send the super thanks when we're offline on the video. I think it's super thanks. And also on Facebook, we have stars. So if you like the broadcasts, send some stars if you appreciate what we're doing here on the channel. And again, I really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Love you all. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, everybody. See you tomorrow. Same time, same place. Nation.
Give me a break. Please clap. Stop it. Stop with the questions. Celebrate.
Amazing.
You're kicking me out the door. You're kicking me out the door.